Alright, this is part 2 of middle childhood social emotional development. So now we're going to talk about peer relationships in this age. So the importance of peer groups. Peer groups begin to become increasingly important in children's sense of self and how they function in society. So peer socialization is a big part of how they learn to identify themselves. They start to feel pressures to conform to their peers. But peer experiences can broaden children. They come from different backgrounds and situations, have different interests and beliefs, different families and traditions. It can really broaden a child's horizon to be exposed to peers from a lot of different backgrounds. Peers also allow for practice sharing, cooperating, relating to leaders, coping with aggressive impulses, their own and others. It helps them learn social rules. So peers are really important in this age group. Friendships. Friendships are really, really important. They provide perspectives that may be different from family perspectives. Again, they broaden the child's horizons. They offer emotional support, opportunity to practice communication and interactions, compare feelings and experiences that they don't feel comfortable sharing with their parents. Children they need a friend. Just one good friend can help mitigate a lot of negative effects of middle childhood and things that are going on in their lives. Just having one good friend is really, really good for them. So there are different stages of friendship. There are a couple different theories about it. So the first we're going to cover is William Damon. Damon asks children specific interview questions such as, tell me about your best friend, or tell me a story about two children who are friends. He did this back in 1977. The following stories are typical of the responses from children, and these illustrate each of Damon's stages. So in level 1, it's a handy playmate. So Jonathan, who's 5 years old, would answer, Thomas is my friend because he plays with me. He likes Lego, and so do I. Me and Thomas share Lego. So this shows that in this stage, friendship is all about what they have in common, things they like to do together. They're friends with people who want to play the same games and like the same toys. Level 2 is mutual trust and assistance. So Katie, 9 years old, says, Ella is my best friend and I am her best friend. We are going to be friends forever. If I ever have a sleepover, Ella is the first person I invite. And if Ella ever has a sleepover, I am the first person she invites. If I can't go to the movies or something because I am sick or something, then Ella won't go either. She will stay with me and play at my house. So in this stage, you can see that children are starting to trust each other. They expect favors in return for favors they give for their friends. So it's kind of a give and take. They help each other. They trust each other. In level 3, this is called intimacy and loyalty. So Kayla, a 13-year-old, will say, if I ever get hassled at school, my friends comfort and support me. Shelly will go up and ask them, why did you say that to her? She sticks up and defends me. Shelly understands me better than anyone else I know. So at this stage, loyalty is really, really important to them. And friends become someone they can confide in. They can share their emotional states with. Okay, they become confidants. And all of these stages, friends are important, but we see people go through these stages. You might even have this in adulthood. You might have some friends who fit more in the handy playmate stage, and some that you are more loyal and intimate with. And by intimate, I mean emotionally intimate. Robert Selman, who came up with the stages of perspective taking that we just discussed, also came up with stages of friendship, and those correspond exactly with his stages of perspective taking. So at stage 0, this was the 3 to 6 years, very egocentric. Friends are all about the momentary physical interaction. They can't take other people's points of views, so a friend is just someone who likes to play with the same thing and is accessible. They live nearby, they're in the same preschool, something like that. Again, the handy playmate. Stage 1, around 5 to 10 years, this is one-way assistance. They realize that friends may have different thoughts and feelings, but they still place their own desires first. So a friend is someone who does what they want. So it's still kind of egocentric. They expect a friend to do things for them, but they're not quite so willing to do something for their friend. Stage 2, 7 to 10 years, this is fair weather cooperation. So friends do things for one another. There's a sense of reciprocity, but the focus remains on the individual's self-interest rather than the relationship. So we still have the lingering egocentrism here. In stage 3, 10 to 15 years, we get to intimate and mutual sharing. They focus on the relationship itself rather than on the individuals, And the function of friendship is mutual support over a long period of time. And then the last one, stage 4, this is ages 12 and older. This is autonomous interdependence. Children understand that friendships grow and change as people do. They may need different friends to satisfy different personal and social needs, but friends depend on each other. They rely on each other. Again, friends are super important to children, both in middle childhood and in adolescence. So now let's shift to the family. So relationship with parents. In middle childhood, parents and children start to spend less time together. There's new concerns for the child, school, chores, peer activities, and parents start to do less monitoring of their children and provide less direct feedback. They're kind of letting go of their children a little bit. So this process is called co-regulation. This is the gradual transferring of control from the parent to the child. So slowly the parent gives the child more and more control, more and more decisions, or at least they should. Internalization. So children begin to internalize the standards set by their parents, and they no longer need to be constantly reminded. They've learned what their parents expect for them, and they've made those internal expectations. So their parents don't have to be constantly telling them anymore. But they start to move from their parents to their peers as the most important influence. This is about equal in middle childhood. Parents and peers are equally influential. So children begin to evaluate their parents more critically. Young children seem to idealize their parents. They think their parents are right all the time and can do no wrong. But in middle childhood, they start to see their parents as human, who have mistakes and flaws. Children will still rate their parents as the best source of emotional support, which is more valuable than income or economics. Remember, emotional support is far more valuable than anything else. And in middle childhood, they still rate their parents as their best source of emotional support. Moving on to school. So school readiness. The transition from home to school is very difficult. Children have to learn new tasks such as teacher expectations, sitting still, paying attention, getting along with peers. They're separated from their parents for longer periods of time. They have to learn self-control. It's really hard to move into a school setting. So what skills should they have before entering school? This is called school readiness. Many teachers report that a large proportion of students are not ready to begin school. They lack language and social skills. They don't have the ability to sit and pay attention. And why is this? Well, SES plays a very large role. So families living in poverty may be less able to provide the emotional and material support from children transitioning to schools, and this could affect their future academic success. Poor nutrition and health care, as well as lack of mental stimulation and support from their parents, place children at risk for academic failure before school even begins. It's like they start behind, and it's really hard for them to catch up. So research has found that preschool is really, really important. It can help ease the transition, especially for those low-income children. And this research is why there are so many programs out there that are designed to get kids into free preschool, because preschool is really important in getting kids ready for school and helping close the gap. If this is a topic of interest for you, you could read the book How Children Succeed. It talks about what traits help a child be more successful in school. So what makes a good school? Schools have as much of an influence on children as parents. Children are in school for a large portion of the day. They not only teach academic skills, but they set limits, encourage mature behavior. They try to nurture physical, cognitive, and emotional development, but some schools are better than others. The priorities set by a school can affect child performance. For example, when a school encouraged children to compete with one another, that competition led to social rejection, and we talked about the effects of social rejection. When children were just told to do their best, however, not compete, high rates of success led to pure admiration. So the traits of the school can really affect how well a child succeeds. So characteristics of a good school might be an active, engaged principal, an atmosphere that is orderly but not oppressive, the empowerment of teachers. They participate in the decision making. Teachers have high expectations of their students, curriculum that emphasizes academics, frequent assessment of student performance. We're going to talk about those 2 points more in a little bit. Empowerment of students, setting goals, making classroom decisions, cooperative learning, and smaller classes. We need a smaller student-teacher ratio. So, what makes an effective teacher? While not as important as the parent-child relationship, the teacher-child relationship has a large influence on the success of the student. Effective teachers have certain characteristics. They have high expectations for their students. Achievement is enhanced when teachers expect students to master their curriculum. The teacher expectations can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If they don't expect their students will succeed, then the students won't. But if they do, then the students will. They have to have good classroom management. They manage their classrooms effectively. They manage the behavior. They actively engage their students. They ask questions, they give feedback, they give opportunities for practice rather than just standing and lecturing constantly. And they have pleasant, friendly classrooms. Okay? Classrooms need a good atmosphere in order for students to learn. So, sexism in the classroom. Boys tend to dominate classroom communication. They're less likely to be admonished for talking without raising hands, and they do that more often than girls do. Boys also get away with more rambunctious behavior. You've heard the quote, boys will be boys. So boys tend to be called on more often, they're asked more questions, they get more feedback from the teachers. There's a lot of disparity in the way boys and girls are treated in the classroom. Also, there's the dress code situation. Has anyone heard the stories about this? Girls being sent home for clothing. Boys never seem to be sent home for dress code violations the same way girls do, and some of these restrictions are getting pretty ridiculous. And what is that teaching girls? I want you to think about that. That being said, schools are structured more for the way girls learn than the way boys learn. So in a way, boys in schools are treated like defective girls. So there's a lot of differences in gender and how kids are treated in the classroom. And this really needs to be addressed. So here's a quest. Look up the program First Five. What are its goals? How does it try to achieve them? And is it successful? Okay, I'll post this on Blackboard. And I will also post this discussion. When talking about student success, what are schools really talking about? Should success be purely measured by academic achievement? Are standardized tests the best way to gauge student success? So we talked about the characteristics of an effective school, and I want you to think about if there should be more. Is academic success really the only point of schools, or should schools talk about something else? And I really look forward to hearing your responses to that. If you have any questions, please comment on this lecture or on Blackboard.